Number 10, the Wizard and Trapster. These two would go on to become important founding members of the Frightful Four villain team, but even before that, they were teaming up together. Way back when Trapster was known simply as Paste Pot Pete, these two worked together in Strange Tales in an effort to defame and defeat the Human Torch, Johnny Storm. In the end, the Torch escaped their trap and apprehended both of them, turning them in, but still, for two C or D-list villains, they came pretty close to killing the Fantastic Four hero, using Pete's pace and an airtight room that was quickly being drained of its oxygen. Also, I don't know if the Wizard's actually a C-list villain. I might actually bump him up. Also, Paste Pot Pete is hard to say if you say it like 3 times fast. Number 9, Crime Syndicate. As much as I love the Crime Syndicate and think that they are an awesome team of villains, they are also pretty dysfunctional, which is why they are ranked so low on our list. However, despite the fact that they are often depicted as being at one another's throats and sneaking behind one another's backs in order to basically make sure that they themselves come out on top with the most power, they still manage to have an impressive amount of horrendous achievements, or almost achievements at least. The Crime Syndicate is still a supervillain team that proves to be extremely dangerous whenever our heroes come up against them, though they would probably be more frightening to face if they could do a little bit better at actually working together like a team instead of constantly double-crossing one another. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and comment below if you want to help us out here at the channel. I promise you it does really help, and we appreciate all your likes and comments. Thank you. Number 8, Daredevil Revenge Squad. Not the official name for this team, I don't think. This team was Typhoid Mary's group of villains. She recruited them to help her get revenge on Daredevil, and they all also had their own motives for doing him harm. All villains who had basically been slighted by the Red Devil themselves in the past. What's more, although this team up only lasted a few issues, it was actually brutally successful, with Typhoid Mary even using her Mary persona at the end of Daredevil issue 259 to kind of ensnare Matt Murdock into like letting his guard down around her. Typhoid Mary recruited the Wild Boys, Ammo, Bullet, and Bushwhacker to help her get the deed done, but insisted on taking the final moment of defeat for herself. Also, is it just me, or does Typhoid Mary look huge in this issue? She looks like so tall. I'm just like, wow, what's happening? I don't hate it.
Number 7, Circus of Crime. Fritz Tybalt, then manager and ringmaster of a small Austrian circus, became active in the Axis powers during World War II. He was asked by German intelligence to take his circus to the United States of America to give performances in major cities while actually using his circus members' powers and talents in order to take out government officials. Fritz Tybalt's evil circus of crime consisted of Omir the Snake Charmer, Tommy Thumb, the Trapeze Trio, and Zandow the Strongman. However, Tybalt, who came to be known as the Ringmaster of Death, was captured by Captain America. But fast forward, and the Circus of Crime's new MO was giving a performance to a large audience. Then the Ringmaster would use the powerful mind control device in his hat to put the audience into a trance. The circus members then robbed the audience, who would remember nothing about the thefts when the Ringmaster released them from the trance, and the performance continued. This criminal circus fought the Hulk, Spider-Man, the Hawkeyes, the Avengers, and others.
Number 6, Sinister Six. I didn't realize that I made the Sinister Six number 6. I just did that. That was not intentional. I'll take it, but it was not intentional, just so y'all know. Well, the Sinister Six definitely have their setbacks as a team. There is a reason why they are one of the favorites when it comes to supervillain groups and team-ups. I'm still waiting for them in the MCU. Please, please, Marvel, give them to me. With the combined strength and skills of these villains, it seems that no scheme is outside of their reach. In reality, though, they usually end up in a competition to prove who is the better, which ends with them betraying one another, usually costing them their victories. But this team has still come close to defeating Spider-Man on multiple occasions, and despite their setbacks, they are a team that you can always rely on to find their way back to one another, even if it means sometimes recruiting some new members to their ranks in the process. Also, I'm all for new members being included to the ranks. There's so many good Spider-Man villains. Why limit ourselves? Give me the Sinister 60.
Number 5, Magneto. Magneto has teamed up with the X-Men a handful of times, both in the comics and films. But I think I am going to talk about the time he did it during the film X-Men Days of Future Past. It was so cool. Seeing all the X-Men in the future working together to fight off the Sentinels, And during this, we see Magneto and the X-Men have put aside their differences and started to work together in order to combat this new threat. Seeing Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, and all of the original cast share the screen together again was just an added bonus. And watching Magneto protect Charles and Logan from the Sentinels was awesome. I mean, he sacrificed himself. I mean, it's kind of crazy, especially when you consider how they were the last time we saw them in X-Men The Last Stand. And just all the times they fought during the trilogy, but it was really cool to see how far they came as characters.
Number 4, Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy. These two aren't just great villains when it comes to their working relationship, they were also fast friends and kind of best friends. I love it. Black Tom and Juggernaut have been good friends and allies since Black Tom's first full appearance in the comics in Uncanny X-Men issue 101. And I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking, oh, but Amanda, that wasn't Black Tom's first appearance, but it was his first full appearance. So I believe his first cameo appearance was issue 99, but don't quote me on that. Only a few issues later, they were already proving themselves to be a deadly duo as they teamed up to successfully kidnap and torment the X-Men in the hopes that this would inspire Professor Xavier to offer his own life up in exchange for his students' freedom. Unfortunately, they ended up getting tricked by Nightcrawler and ultimately were defeated. But still, this was a pretty good attempt to defeat the X-Men and Charles Xavier. Juggy's never gonna get over that. Or well, actually, yeah, he'll probably never get over it. I stand by what I said. It's gotta be hard for Juggernaut right now. All of the mutants are off in Krakoa and he's not a mutant. It's challenging.
Number 3, Menagerie. The Menagerie is likely a more recent evil team, showing up for the first time in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, Number 1 in April of 2014, when they tried to steal valuable decorated eggs from an antique store and were pretty easily defeated. So from the get-go, the impressive feats are on the lower side of the list, if you know what I'm saying. In fact, I'd say the most famous thing they've done is when they disintegrated Spider-Man's spider suit, making him have to create web underwear for himself. And it's kind of the underwear that is remembered here, not the menagerie. The animal-themed criminal team was created by White Rabbit, and its members included Hippo, Ox, Skyne, who did the spider suit disintegrating, Squid, Swarm, and, wait for it, Panda Mania. Nice. The Menagerie also is known for trying to rob a club where Nadia Van Dyne was celebrating her birthday with numerous other heroes, which, as you can imagine, it didn't go too well for them.
Number 2, Masters of Evil. Another very iconic and successful group of supervillains who have teamed up together. This roster has also changed dramatically over the years when it comes to their members, and despite the fact that they have some members who are less popular when it comes to their notoriety, this seems to be a team that generally has some measure of success when it comes to their evil plots. The team has consisted of such members as Moonstone, Radioactive Man, Tiger Shark, Titania, and Absorbing Man, with any of the Zemos usually being seen as the most successful leaders of the team to date. But they've also had a lot of different leaders. To date, we've seen multiple incarnations of the team, and we're actually likely in, or at least approaching, the double digits, I think, at this point, when it comes to all the different rosters that we've seen. Number 1, Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. Yeah, so if you know me, you may have already guessed that they'd be at my top, but yeah, I love Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. Never mind being, I think, some of the best supervillain team-ups out there. It's just two amazing characters. You give me two amazing villains together, I'm gonna say that it worked well. These two work together in a way that almost allows them to move from the side of villain to hero. In fact, over the last few years, as we've seen their characters develop together, they have both become more and more heroic. Though Ivy is now, of course, kind of headed back in the direction of straight-up villain, currently in the comics, after her and Harley's relationship kind of fell apart in the aftermath of Heroes in Crisis. Still, for the most part, these two have brought out a lot of the best in each other, and have also managed to pull off some pretty impressive schemes along the way. I don't know whether making each other better and bringing out the hero in each other means that these two should be considered a great or an awful supervillain team-up, but I personally like to see that as a win, even if it doesn't align with the villainous focus of this list. Any partnership where you bring out the best in someone, for good or for evil, should be considered one of the greatest in my books, because, you know, that's what partnerships and or relationships are all about.
Number 10. Catwoman. Okay, so let me start off by saying, I know Catwoman isn't always a straight-up supervillain. She has played both sides, but, you know, overall, she sometimes is considered a villain, and so, you know, it's always interesting to see her and Batman whenever they decide to team up, and put whatever differences they had aside and work together to stop a common threat. Of course, this relationship ended up turning into something much, much more, and the two of them even almost got married. Number 9, Ocean Master. This one was very brief, but still pretty interesting, and I wonder if it'll be something that will ever be explored more on screen once Aquaman 2 ever comes out to theaters. But in the comics, Arthur and his half-brother were forced to work together to stop someone called the Scavenger. He was looking for a device that would grant him immortality, but in the process, it destroys the ocean. So in order to stop that, Aquaman and Ocean Master join forces to stop the Scavenger. And they do. But after it was all done, Ocean Master vowed to destroy Aquaman once and for all. Brotherly love. You gotta love it, am I right? Number 8, Harry Osborn. Now, Spider-Man 3 doesn't have the greatest reputation, and it's by no means a perfect film. Everyone knows that. But it still did have some cool scenes scattered throughout. And one of them was when Peter and Harry put aside their differences and worked together to take down Sandman and Venom. Seeing the best friends turned enemies work together one last time was a good way to really end their story arc. Their relationship was one of the best things about the trilogy, so fans were really happy to see it end in a satisfying way. And of course, good thing the two of them did work out their differences because Harry was unfortunately killed during that battle after being stabbed by Venom.
Number 7, Gotham City Sirens. Definitely one of the hottest supervillain team-ups out there in my opinion. Gotham City Sirens isn't just awesome because it's a team of powerful villains, but because it also cemented a fantastic friendship between the 3 main team members that we can always go back to, and I kinda love that. The Gotham City Sirens are Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and Harley Quinn, who sometimes also have other allies who join them in their villainous adventures. And also, let's be honest, heroic adventures, such as the Carpenter, Jenna Duffy, formerly part of the Wonderland gang. While this team up is one made up of criminals, the team of powerhouses also brought a lot of good out in each other and ended up actually performing a lot of heroic missions together despite their villainous pasts. So this might be a team up of villains, but it's also kind of a hero team in a weird way, kind of like doing a little bit of both, which I love.
Number 6, Lex Luthor. During the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event, Lex Luthor kills Brandon Routh's Superman and makes himself the Paragon of Truth. And because of this, he now has to work with the 6 other heroes, / Paragons, to save humanity and stop the Anti-Monitor. Oh man, the whole sequence was pretty amazing to watch because absolutely no one trusts Lex Luthor. But they need him. They need all of the Paragons in order to succeed. Kara, of course, never wants to let him out of her sight, so we get very memorable scenes between the two of them, and even a crazy fight scene because Lex gave himself powers using the Book of Destiny. John Cryer has really done a phenomenal job as Lex Luthor, and I really hope he guest stars on the new show Superman and Lois. I mean, we need to see him and Tyler Hoechlin's Superman interact and take on each other. It would be so cool to see. We've had hints of it during Supergirl, but we've never actually seen them together, so I'm really excited for that possibility.
Number 5, the Frightful Four. A second group inspired by the Fantastic Four. Yes, the Frightful Four also did not come up with a very clever name. The Wizard, the Sandman, and Paste Pot Pete, who all regularly did battle with the Human Torch and were defeated by him around the same time, realized that they all had unique powers and a mutual disdain for the Fantastic Four. The Wizard suggested that they form a group that would be the evil counterparts to the Fantastic Four. A great idea! But it's just 3 dudes. They need a 4th member to their group, and what do you know, the Wizard had heard of a strange woman hiding out on a remote island on the Mediterranean who had complete control of her hair. Traveling there, the Wizard convinced Madame Medusa to join their ranks. Now this Madame Medusa was actually Medusa of the Inhumans, as some of you may have guessed, but she was kept under the influence of the Wizard using a device that kept her memories forgotten to her. They made their first attack at Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman's engagement party, which is kinda just rude if you ask me.
Number 4, Loki. Loki. I love when he teams up with Thor. Now this has happened a few times during Thor, Thor the Dark World, and Thor Ragnarok. But the best time was during Thor Ragnarok, when they were forced to come together to prevent Ragnarok and save Asgard. This also introduced the world to the amazing Get Help scene, which showed us just how cool and fun it was to have them team up. Of course, the sad thing is, we will probably never see it again. I mean, at least for a little while, since Loki was killed during Infinity War. And I know he's getting his own Disney Plus series, but it's technically set in a separate timeline, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays into it. But Thor will probably not show up in the show anyway. Right away, maybe he will eventually, and maybe we'll see them in future films someday again. Who knows? Loki is sneaky, so I never count him out.
Number 3, Lex Luthor and Brainiac. They were almost a complete success even in their very first team-up. Almost. Together, Lex Luthor and Brainiac appeared in issue 167 of Superman, where they teamed up in a 3-part story to take down their joint foe. Their brilliance and technological know-how combined allowed them to both shrink and depower Superman, but unfortunately for them, Superman would not stand by and let himself be so easily defeated, or so well defeated, because I think that's a pretty good plan. And he found a way to escape their wrath. They honestly should have just squashed him when they had a chance, but hey, then we wouldn't have any more stories. Lex and Brainiac together, in fact, are such a fan favorite. We've even seen them in the most intense kind of team up in the DC animated universe when they merged both their minds and bodies together into one being. Like, you know your partnership is intense when you're just let's just join and be one being, but also terrifying. I don't want to fight. Lex and Brainiac merged together.
Number 2, the whole DC multiverse. During the comic Crisis on Infinite Earths, basically every hero and villain were forced to work together in order to save the multiverse and stop the Anti-Monitor. Because, I mean, they didn't really have much of a choice, because there wouldn't really be a world for them to save or destroy, so they were forced to work together. It was a once-in-a-lifetime event, and it was really cool to see. Number 1, Deathstroke. Deathstroke has, he's teamed up with people before, but I am going to talk about the time when he did it in Arrow Season 5. In that season, Slade was locked up in a prison on Lian-Yu, and Oliver goes to him for help to take on Prometheus and his team. It was a truly epic moment, because a lot of fans never thought we would ever see Slade return to the show because of the restrictions DC puts on it. Oliver and Slade used to be friends. I mean, Slade trained him. But then Shadow died and Slade went crazy with Mirakuru, so their relationship took a turn. But it was so cool to see them reunite and team up together again on the same island where they first met and trained together. It felt like everything came full circle. The Arrow Season 5 finale is seriously one of the best episodes the show has ever done. And seeing Oliver and Slade team up made it even better. I still just get chills thinking about it. Ugh.
Number 10, the S-Men. Red Skull, being the dastardly devil he is, made some backup plans in the case of his eventual demise. One such plan was a clone of himself who would come back in the modern era. Okay, side note, why do villains do this, making clones of themselves? The individual villain still kind of passes away, so if they move their consciousness or something, that kind of makes sense, but I don't get why this is a thing. But I'm pretty sure this clone isn't even like that. I'm gonna make myself upset, so let's just continue. Basically, waking up in this new modern world with mutants and all that jazz, this new Red Skull decided that he was going to dig up the body of Professor X and steal some of his brain, granting himself some telepathy, and as an antithesis to the X-Men, he created the S-Men. Yes, very creative. This was a group of individuals that the Red Skull had empowered using crazy mad science and magic. Almost all of them were pretty quickly taken out of existence by Magneto when this Red Skull tried to make a camp to exterminate mutants. Bad move, buddy. Bad move. Number 9, Zodiac Cartel. Honestly, it's a pretty cool idea for a group. This villainous group of hand-picked business leaders who were all born under different zodiac signs, as their leader Cornelius Van Lunt, or Taurus, was heavily into astrology. Each member, while representing a zodiac sign, also was based in a different American city, and their main goal was world economic and political domination. Its members originally were, other than Cornelius, Scorpio, Jake Fury, Aquarius, Darren Bentley, Aries, Marcus Lassiter, Cancer, Jack Cleveno, Capricorn, Willard Weir, Gemini, Joshua Link, Leo, Daniel Radford, Libra, Gustav Brandt, Pisces Noah Perricone, Sagittarius Harlan Vargas, and my representative Virgo Elaine McLaughlin. The team was first formed after the dissolution of a previous group called the Great Wheel of Zodiac, which had covert agents from around the globe including Baron von Strucker, Dum Dum Dugan, and even Leonardo da Vinci. Its dissolution also led to the creation of S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra, and Leviathan as well, so you could definitely say it was important and somehow still relatively obscure. Number 8. Headman. Sometimes it takes the smallest of things to bring people together, and while that may sound like an extremely beautiful sentiment, I'm saying it in relation to the villainous team known as the Headmen, who it seems came together because each of their powers revolves around their heads in one way or another, and it's honestly kind of unsettling in my opinion. Bonded together through their heads, these scientists sought out world domination, bringing them into conflict with the Defenders, She-Hulk, and Spider-Man. This quartet consisted of Arthur Nagin, their leader, who had his head transplanted onto the body of a gorilla, Ruby Thursday, who replaced her own head with an organic computer capable of changing shape, Gerald Morgan, aka Shrunken Bones, accidentally shrank his own skeleton, including his skull, so he basically has really baggy skin, and Chandu the Mystic's head has been transplanted by Nagin onto a number of different bodies throughout his time, making him quite versatile.
Number 7. Alice. Alice and Kate Kane have a complicated relationship. I mean, considering, they're sisters. While the show Batwoman isn't perfect, one of the best things about it is the dynamic between Kate and Alice, and that was especially true when they were forced to work together in Season 1, Episode 16, titled Through the Looking Glass. Kate is forced to work with Alice to break Mouse out of Arkham Asylum. Seeing the two of them work together and break into Arkham was very cool, and seeing how their distinct styles clashed. I mean, Kate made sure that Alice wouldn't kill anyone, which Alice usually likes to do. Of course, it ends with Kate double-crossing her, but hey, it was still cool to see it while it lasted, and that dynamic is something fans are really gonna miss since Kate is no longer going to be in the show in Season 2.
Number 6. The UFOs. These villains and their cleverly chosen team names. UFOs, like UFOs, because they got their powers in space. Yes, of course. Someone get me out of here, please. Okay, the UFOs here, inspired by the powers gained by the Fantastic Four, went to great lengths trying to reproduce the same accident that gave those heroes their abilities. The attempt succeeded, but they were interrupted by Bruce Banner, who discovered their ground control facility and was able to bring the shuttle down, because he thought it had been exposed to the cosmic radiation by accident. They were none too happy, as they thought they could have been made even stronger if he had not interfered, and they displayed their newfound powers in a frankly pretty awesome fight with the Incredible Hulk, even if they lost. Vapor has the ability to alter her form into any known gas. Vector gained the power of telekinesis from cosmic rays. X-Ray has been permanently transformed into a living energy field with the power to expel forms of heavy radiation capable of hurting even the Hulk. Ironclad has been permanently transformed into organic metal steel. He has superhuman strength, durability, and the ability to decrease or increase his own weight. His fight with the Hulk literally shook the universe, which is super cool. You should probably check him out.
Number 5. Dr. Psycho and Riddler and Parademons. Dr. Psycho ends up allying himself with the Riddler in the Harley Quinn animated series. Originally it's Harley who wants to team up with Darkseid with her gang, but in the end she ends up surrendering her army of parademons that Darkseid supplied her with after realizing she's really doing all of this, conquering Earth to try and escape her romantic feelings for Poison Ivy, who is about to get married to Kite Man at this point in the series. Yikes, awkward. Dr. Psycho ends up becoming the big bad of the latest season in the end, with Riddler becoming his partner in crime and wielding great control over the leftover parademon army on Earth, which he has no qualms about using, unlike Harley, who's like, yeah, maybe I'm going a little too far. But yeah, Psycho's into it. A little too into it. Very much too into it.
Number 4. Wrecking Crew. When Dirk Garthwaite, otherwise known as Wrecker, held onto his enchanted crowbar, he invited his 3 chums, ex-physicist Dr. Elliot Franklin, ex-Army Master Sergeant Henry Camp, and ex-Farm farmhand Brian Kalusky to come and do the same in the middle of a thunderstorm. When lightning struck the crowbar, all three men were empowered, becoming Thunderball, Bulldozer, and Piledriver respectively, and coming together to be the villainous Wrecking Crew. These mystical strongmen were mainly an enemy to Thor, but they originally fought against the Defenders. This group has actually been around for a pretty long time and have battled many a superhero. The Fantastic Four, Avengers, Omega Flight, Spider-Man, the Thunderbolts, and even got into a fight between the Marvel and DC universes.
Number 3. Kingpin. In one of Daredevil's greatest stories, Matt Murdock is sent to prison and everyone knows he is Daredevil. So, he is in prison with all of his greatest enemies. During the comic, titled The Devil Inside and Out, Matt is forced to work with Wilson Fisk in order to survive, and the result is a very entertaining series. It was one of the first times we really saw a hero get put into this position, like in prison and everyone knows who he is. It was entertaining, and to be honest, I was really hoping to see this adapted in the Daredevil TV show one day, because it would have been so freaking cool to see that version of Daredevil and that version of Kingpin work together in prison. But now, that will probably never happen. Still, pick up the comic if you haven't already, it's a really good read.
Number 2. Death Throes. Remember how the Headmen all came together based on their head-related powers? Well, I'll do you one better. How about the Death Throes, whose powers and names all have something to do with commonly throwing stuff? The ringleader, threw together teammates Bombshell, Knick-Knack, Oddball, Tenpin, and Throwdown into a group that works really well together, juggling their weapons between each other and doing battle with characters like Captain America, Crossfire, Hawkeye, and even Loki of all people, who stopped the group from robbing the big top casino in Las Vegas. The Marvel Wiki even lists their origins as quote-unquote joint effort to perform criminal and mercenary acts while using juggling expertise. I honestly kinda had a hoot putting together this point, as I can't believe this group of villains even exists. And lastly, at number 1 is Horticulture. Okay, of all the teams on this list, I think the Horticulture are my favorite. For starters, they look so cool. But then, you find out it's a bunch of older women between the ages of 64 to 81 who are all expert botanists and want to bring Earth back to its more pristine time when it had about 7 billion less people on it. I just love how they use their regular names, and the names just kinda suit their age and interest in plants. I don't know how, but they kinda just do. Augusta Bromes, Lily Lamus, Edith Scutch, and Opal Vetiver. Gosh. But yes, that's right, these ladies want to basically exterminate most of the Earth's human population and bring plants back to the forefront, specifically flowers. This goal brings them into conflict with the X-Men in 2019's X-Men number 3. Beyond biological modifications believed to have been made to themselves, the women of Horticulture are experts at manipulating the environment to suit their extinction agenda, and they're also computer programmers, selling software to Orcus to monitor Krakoan gateways. But seriously, look at them. They're just awesome.